Speaking of high frequency trading, Citadel came in with some of their performance figures. I think was Citadel Securities posted something like $7.5 billion in revenue. Citadel posted $28 billion. What the hell are they doing over there?
Crushed it, haven't they? Absolutely crushed it.
Yeah. Just find rocks and sell them as stones. I don't know.
So here's the funny thing about Citadel. I mean, let's talk about regulatory oversight here. You've got a guy, Ken Griffin, that's donated about as much money to the Republicans as SBF donated to the Democrats. You've got a securities business which primarily deals off of this, I'm going to call it an ethical gray area of payment for order flow, which, I don't know, Matt, can you just give a quick overview of what payment for order flow is? Because I don't think I can give an unbiased view on the matter. I'm going to come in and I'm going to make it sound like the most villainous, evil shit on the planet. So it's probably better that Matt gives
a true unbiased opinion.
A sensible idea of what payment for order flow is.
Matt Reed is
spoiler alert, Carlos does not think it's cool.
Matt Reed is our Switzerland.
So, yeah, payment for order flow, I mean, it's kind of that. It's in the name, in essence. So a market maker can pay a brokerage firm, such as like Robinhood is the classic one we all know and love now, for flow that they receive. Now, the deal there on the brokerage side is that you have to make sure you've covered best execution practices. Because ideally, if you only have one dealer in, that could be Citadel, and they're, paying for the flow, could be argued there's a conflict of interest there. You're getting paid to send the flow to them, and then you're not guaranteeing a reasonable price for the consumer at the end of the day. So the person that actually wants to make the trade. And the brokerage's goal was basically, normally they'd charge some fee and then they'd pass it through to market makers on the other side that they could match off with. So brokerages are kind of like exchanges in a way. They'll take fees and they'll match you up, especially OTC, with a counterparty. Payment for order flow is where those market makers on the other end can pay for certain types of flow that they want. And the retail sector is a very in-demand space because it's generally, you could be on your app now just going, fancy buying some Apple. You're only going to be very agnostic to anything else that's happening in the market. So the flow is pretty benign.
Matt, when someone says fancy buying some Apple, what does that mean?
I fancy buying some Apple stock, not like literally apples. I mean, Apple stock.
Although they are delicious.
I'm sorry. I'm making fun of your Britishisms because I fancy stuff as well.
So that's kind of what it is. And like I said, so under FINRA, there's rules about ensuring you do best execution, and both like a brokerage, broker-dealer is on the hook for that.
So let me jump in then with what I think are some problems with payment for order flow. Typically, the payment for order flow benchmark for best execution is what's called the National Best Bid and Offer. Which the government maintains. And the government has, if you think that, like, for example, high frequency firms have like best in class architecture, and then banks have something like right here, government architecture is literally down in the depths of hell. So what ends up happening is that the National Best Bid and Offer happens at timescales which are not even close to being representative to what the true market is. So it's actually really easy to game that, and it's really easy to show that you improved on the best bid and offer on some lit venue, right? When in actuality, the real market across all the different places that they see could be like fantastically worse or better somewhere away.
And typically, this is really inequities we're talking, right?
Yes. Yes, and this all exists as an artifact of regulators causing unintended consequences. This doesn't happen in any other marketplace, because every other marketplace just has general competition, where if you want the best price, you get N number of counterparties in, and they compete on price. So because the regulator has this concept of a national best bid and offer, which it's deluded itself into believing is a proxy for a competitive price in the market at a time scale that's relevant. Guys like Citadel basically get to come in and, in high frequency time structures, it would be like if you got to get the newspaper at the end of the day and get the high and low price and get to deal in between those. Right? So like if you were to go intraday and basically charge the high and low of the day as your bid offer, that's effectively what Citadel gets to do for its equities electronic market making. And in order to make sure it has no competition with these retail vendors, it basically locks it in for some small venue. And then, retail people go to Robinhood and they're like, oh, great, no fees. I'm getting such a great deal here. Well, no, it's like Robinhood still needs to make money. And the way Robinhood makes money is it sells that order flow to people like Citadel so that they can rip your face off.
And all that's legal.
It's great.
Yeah.
No, it's all legal because, like I said, I think you've got this regulatory capture where you've got people that like Gary Gensler who's like, hey, what's an HFT? I don't know.
Well,
Sounds
that's
good
the
to
thing.
me.
So I thought at the middle of this year that he was going to go after that, but then it seems to have all fizzled out. I haven't heard anything else on it. Is he just done? Like, he should write a letter.
He's found a new red herring in Gemini Earn to distract everybody. He's like, guys, hold on. I'm totally protecting you. Do you see that guy on the ground who's writhing in agony? I kicked him. You're all safe now.
Twice.
Yeah, right in the nuts. So it's all performative and it's all theater. I mean, that's just why I don't believe that in actuality, right, dealing with retail flow on payment for order flow should generate $7.5 billion in revenue. Like, that's absolutely insane to me. I mean, they should be $1 billion business, maybe a couple $100 million. I don't see a world where they're actually generating $7.5 billion in revenue or profits, for that matter, on their securities business, unless they're doing something a little untoward.
So, I mean, basically, like, if I was to summarize, the issues around all of this is that there's regulations which may or may not, probably had some good intentions trying to create better price transparency, better pricing for retail. The problem is that regulators are always two steps behind the market, and so they implement regulations which can end up being harmful to investors. A question